Camera, Dan, straighten up.
We're on.
Oh, we're on.
Good evening, Washington Courthouse. It is 7:30 p.m. on January 25th, 2023. Time for our second regular meeting of the month. At this time, Ms. Hernandez will do our invocation this evening, and Mr. Crispin will lead us in the pledge. If you're able, if you would stand.
Dear Lord, remind us daily of our blessings of living in this small community, a community of family and friends. Guide us with our decisions for our community in your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Kendra and Jim.
You're certainly welcome.
Mr. Denon, can you do our roll call?
Oh, there he is over here.
Hawk,
Here.
Hernandez,
Here,
Johnson,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Blair,
Here.
Chrisman,
Here.
Lynch.
Here. We have the minutes to approve from our regular meeting on January 11th. That should be 2023. Anyway, does anybody other than that see anything in the minutes that needs to be changed? I didn't, but that doesn't mean I didn't miss something.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Mr. Denon.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
abstain.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Next is communications. Any, Mr. Denon?
None.
We have some council committees, or a council committee, to report this evening. It's Service, Safety, and Recreation. Ted, if you can't see that one.
That isn't, it's almost 2 pages. You can take a break in the middle if you want.
Just can't see the writing for the.
Color.
Blair.
It's pretty colorful.
There he is, bright.
Anyway, sir, would you go ahead and give us those minutes?
The Service, Safety, and Recreation Committee met in the council chambers located at 105 North Main Street on Wednesday, January 11, 2023 at 6 p.m. Ted Hawk presided, and those in attendance were Mr. Steve Schultz, council member, Mr. Jim Blair, council member, Mr. Caleb Johnson, council member, Mr. Jim Chrisman, council member, Mr. Dale Lynch, council chairperson, Mr. Jeff Veneri, police chief, Mr. Tim Downing, fire chief, Mr. Ron Sockman, service director, Mr. Joe Denon, city manager, Mr. Mark Pitstick, city attorney, Mr. Sean Remington, Triangle Trail representative, and Mrs. Kathy White, citizen. Number 1, Mrs. Kathy White, citizen, addressed council and expressed her concern regarding a home being used as an Airbnb in her neighborhood. Mrs. White inquired if council would review policies regarding Airbnbs and propose regulations for properties being utilized as Airbnb businesses. The committee recommended that legislation be brought to council to allow time for a planning commission to review the matter. Number 2, the committee benefited from a general report of the Washington Fire Department. Chief Downing thanked personnel from the service, police, and water departments who helped with the structure fire during the inclement weather. Number 3, Chief Downing noted an increase in fire runs and structure fires. Number 4, the committee granted permission for the administration for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department from Fire and Safety Services not to exceed $300,000, and that legislation be brought to council. Number 5, the committee benefited from a general report of the Washington Police Department. Number 6, Chief Veneri noted that the police department school resource officer pilot program had begun, and that Patrolman Everhart had been selected for the program. Chief Fenari noted that there had been positive feedback concerning the program. Number 7, the administration advised the committee that the police department had been awarded a personnel retention grant in the amount of $184,000 and $142,946.46 for the hiring of an additional police officer. The administration advised the committee that the police department had been awarded a reimbursement grant in the amount of $43,423 for the purchase of a Motorola body cam system. The administration noted that installation costs would be separate from the grant amount. Number 9, Chief Fenari noted the need to advertise to hire 2 officers for open patrol positions. Chief Fenari noted that an assertive effort would be made to actively recruit more candidates for the position. Number 10, the administration noted an inquiry from a citizen regarding keeping chickens and fowl within the city limits. The committee noted an interest of beekeeping and rabbit keeping as well. The committee recommended further discussion. Number 11, the committee benefited from a general report of the service department. The committee recommended that the administration be granted permission to bid for the 2023 paving program. Number 12, the committee recommended that the administration proceed with the state purchasing of 4 service trucks for the 2023 year, not to exceed $50,000 each. The administration noted the need to expedite the order due to limited amount of service trucks available. The committee noted that the order had been canceled in the previous year from the manufacturing company due to lack of supply. Number 13, the committee recommended that legislation be brought to council to continue the agreement with EMHT not to exceed $75,000 for professional services. Number 13, the administration noted an inquiry had been made to the administration to explore water supply options for the village of Bloomingburg. The committee recommended discussions proceed. Number 15, the committee benefited from an upgrade regarding the bike trail. Number 16, the administration advised the committee that the mobile speed detector sign had been placed at Red Mile Boulevard. Respectfully submitted, Ad hoc Chairperson, Service Safety and Recreation Committee, and Mrs. Kelly Ford, Recording Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk.
You did very good.
That was the first half.
Kind of. Any questions, comments? Things you want to ask city manager or anybody? Okay, then we need
Well,
to,
I'll make a motion that we accept these minutes as read.
Second that.
and roll call.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Abstain. Sorry.
You already wrote yes.
Johnson.
Sorry.
No?
No.
Okay. Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Okay. So they are approved. Next, we have our city manager's report, Mr. Denon.
Would like to thank Street for their work with the snow. It has already proved to be kind of a long winter for them. The natural gas rate commencing in April of 23 will return to fixed rate the period beginning April 23 through October 24 at 0.6169 per cubic foot. Would like to note Martin Renison will be retiring from the fire department, and he has been an exceptional employee and member of the community. And many ways, sad to see Martin go, but that time comes to everybody. Income tax postcard, you should have got that in the mail. the post office ever so nicely delivered ours and 4 other people on our street. So I went and delivered those for the post office. But it's a big blue card.
That was not a good move, was it, on their part?
Christina has one.
Big blue card. Christina holding it up there.
That was purposefully done, Joe?
I don't know. But I was surprised. I was, well, they're just down there. And, it was a nice walk. And would like to express thanks to Mr. Everhart of the Police Department for his work with the school district in the school officer resource position. Very happy about that.
Any questions for Mr. Dennett? Thank you, Mr. Dennett. Director of Finance, Ms. Collins, what do you got?
He stole some of my announcement. Thank you,
That's
Judge.
right.
The blue cards, you now, starting this year, being able to file your city income taxes online. So for anybody that's ever been out there in that long line down the street in the freezing cold and rain, you'll be glad to know you can do this at home in your warm house online. The cards you got, or if anyone would like to stop by the income tax department building, there's instruction on here how to go online, or if you want to go in and ask some questions to go online on how to file your taxes. We still will be doing the old way too. Some people, maybe like doing it in person or whatever, so that's still an option if people want to do that. But we really would encourage people to file online, especially for citizens' sake, so they don't have to stand in those long lines and be out in the cold. So we continue to have a good, strong cash balance on hand. As of the end of December, we had $1.9 million in our general fund. And in the month of December, I'm happy to report that all of our investments that the city has all had gains, so in excess of about $30,000 or more, so we're very pleased about that. And I don't think I have anything else to report. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Mrs. Collins? Thank you very much, Christine. Mr. Pitstick.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a report this evening.
Okay. We're to local residents and taxpayers. I have 2 that have asked to speak. I think both of you know the system. You come up and give your name and address. And Della, you're first. You've been here before. Some of our best participants.
My name is Della Castor-Keeley. I live at 1311 Farmington Lane here in Washington Courthouse. I'm at the end of Farmington Lane, as I'm sure I've mentioned before when I've talked. And that hill that has been in question and issues and things, he went from, we thought, clearing out a few trees to clearing the whole field down. And all the trees are gone. With that being said, it has created a horrendous amount of extra sound in our area. And I guess I'm asking, is it possible for us to look into a sound barrier for that area now? I had no idea. I knew the trees were valuable, I just had no idea how valuable. I mean, I always think of them as protecting the animals, the wildlife, and things like that. But boy, with them being gone, you hear everything, and it's loud. So it's hard. I mean, our house is well insulated, but there are times, I mean, when we're outside and we cannot, you're doing yard work, it's crazy. If you're having a gathering and it's outside, it's loud. It's just loud. Is this where I would start at to try to see what we can do about that?
Yeah. So what do you want to do, Joe? Go over and evaluate?
We would have a conversation with ODOT about that, and we go on from there.
Okay, great.
Because it's the state route that's the
Causing the
noise
problem.
issue, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, we go talk with ODOT and
if there's anything that a meeting I need to attend or anything, just let me know. I would be happy to do that.
We'll let you know, Della.
Okay.
What was your house number again?
1311.
It's on here, Joe, on the list.
Okay.
We have, Della, Joe and I have talked about things that could be done about that area in general.
Mhm.
And sound barrier walls were one of the discussions. Speed limit signs and all those kind of things. We've talked about that.
Wow, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it really, and we went from, I mean, when we first built our home there 20 years ago, it was, the trees were there, but they were little but it still blocked a lot, and you couldn't even see our house. You see our house very well from 35. If you're going between the exit at Walmart and coming up towards the 41 exit, you can see our house very well. Matter of fact, we put some decorations up on the back of the house because you can see it so well. So for at Christmas time. So a little horrible storm took some of it away, but you know. But yeah, so I was worried about the wildlife. Little did I know that it would also be a sound issue. Yeah, thank you. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you all were on top of it anyway, it sounded like.
Don't forget about the gathering place, the Echo.
Well, I don't know. I can't, yeah,
You still hear on that?
I don't know. Because the gathering place has that metal building, people are telling me that sound is bouncing off of that as well. I don't know that that's the reason. I just know that we couldn't hear any of that when the trees were up, and now the trees are down. And so but I don't know if the metal building is from the gathering place is what's caused that. But we can see the gathering place very well from our place too now, so. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Sean, you're asking to speak also.
Hi there, everyone. Sean Remington, 3857 US Route 62. Really, I was inspired to talk, all the citizens coming to the committee about chickens. I found that very informative and really enjoyed watching people having an issue. As more people have joined council, Airbnb, the trees removed behind Walmart, you know, it's good to watch council. And what started this journey for all of us over a year ago was connecting the bike trail from Kroger's to the park, and which everyone knows about. And I'm very excited that through this journey we've gotten money allocated for this year, and now we're just waiting on zoning, and we're hoping to move forward. And so with, you know, Honda LG, it's very excited, like we were talking about, and as more people move to this town, having amenities like the bike trail and being able to get the kids to the splash pad safely across those railroad tracks. And now that my shop is right there, I see every day, it's a must. There is constantly people running across that intersection. So I just want to thank everyone in council has been very interested in improving this town. So I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
And now, Mr. Remington, you know that you're not in violation having your chickens in the
I
county.
do not know. I was confused for a minute. I thought
You can get them out of the garage now.
Wait. Not yet.
Not yet.
We haven't passed.
Well, no,
it.
he doesn't account. He wasn't in violation anyway.
Okay. Well, last meeting, we didn't have any legislation, so Mr. Denon has
He made up for it.
made up for it tonight. We have several things on legislation and there was obviously nothing previous, but we have a lot of new legislation. We'll start with, which is always fun at the beginning of the year, ordinance number 1, 2023, and its first reading.
I'll move that we place ordinance 1, 2023 on first reading.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Roll call.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Oh,
An ordinance approving an amendment to the agreement to create the Jefferson Township, Washington Courthouse Joint Economic Development District and authorizing the inclusion of certain additional property within said district.
Thank you. Next is resolution number 1, 2023, first reading.
I'll move that we put resolution number 1, 2023 on first reading.
Second it.
Thank you. Discussion. Roll call.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing Justice J. Denton, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, or his designee, to enter into an agreement with the EMH&T Engineering, Inc. for engineering services.
Resolution number 2, 2023, first reading.
I'll move that we place resolution number R2, 2023 on first reading.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Roll call.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing Justice J. Denton, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, to enter into contract with Fire and Safety Services, Inc. for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus for the Washington Fire Department.
Resolution number 3, 2023, first reading.
I'll make a motion that we place resolution number R3, 2023 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Resolution number R3, 2023, according to the minutes from the Service Safety and Recreation Committee, which were approved earlier, I am assuming is spawning from the sentence on section 1. The committee recommended that legislation be brought to council to allow time for the planning commission to review the matter. I was not under that impression. Whenever we left there, it was that the impression I left with at that meeting was that the planning commission would look at it and propose an ordinance. I asked if there were any ordinances presented to us, to the individual who, I'm glad they came and talked about this. I asked if there were. They indicated they did not know of any such ordinance. A resolution has no effect on this matter. We could have this resolution be official tonight, and tomorrow someone could come in and start it, and there's nothing that Mr. Pitstick could do about it. It is a pretend solution to a pretend problem. And because of that, I find it repugnant to the institution to vote yes on such a thing. It is dishonest to say to the people that we are doing something about a matter when we are not. And if something needs to be done, then this needs to be an ordinance. And quite frankly, I doubt the constitutionality of such an ordinance, even if it were an ordinance. I don't think that it's good to lie and misrepresent what we are doing, and I don't think that's the intent of anyone here. But people would surely walk away if I didn't say anything. People would surely walk away, and they would say, "Oh, well, council did something. They put a stop to these Airbnbs for 6 months," and that's not what would happen. I asked if there were any parties going on. The answer was no. I asked if there were any tents or woodstocks going on. The answer was no. I asked Chief Finari the percentage of calls that the police department got relating to Airbnbs, and that answer he gave was 0. 0. This does not do anything. There's an old concept in the law. It's called law of the horse. Whenever cars came around, people thought, oh, well, we need specific regulations on cars, all right? Well, it was already illegal to run someone over with your horse. So all these people on horseback, if their horse caused injury to another person, Well, that was already against the law. You don't need to have a law that says, oh, well, no one can cause injury to another person in a car. That's ridiculous. And the same thing happens. I asked Chief Fenari, if my neighbors are loud, what do? Call the police, is the answer. If my neighbors are doing drugs in their home, call the police. Airbnbs don't create a zone of lawlessness next to anyone. They create, quite frankly, a zone of economic benefit. And so not only does this not solve any problem, such a thing potentially creates a problem if we were to actually stop this while we're trying to determine what we should do. And because of that, I'm going to be voting no on this. Emphatically, I would encourage everyone else to vote no on it as well. And I am okay, for the record, for the Planning Commission to review the matter, because I am convinced that once they do review the matter for an ordinance, they will find that nothing should be done because it is already regulated. All of the issues that supposedly could happen are already regulated in the current laws that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have questions because I wasn't here and I don't know what went on. So I'm reading this, Mark, and it says all bed and breakfast facilities currently operating shall be grandfathered in until regulations can be established. So if they're already advertising or renting as such, oh, you're saying all bed and breakfasts. So if they're advertising it as differently, then they can't, I mean, I guess I'm confused. Tell me how, like if somebody currently has one and is renting it, how does this affect them?
Doesn't.
Okay, if I'm in the process of creating one, how does that affect me?
Then, according to this, is prohibited.
Okay.
Until the planning commission reviews whether or not we need any.
And this is all in the city, correct?
Washington, correct.
So like I know that there are people that are currently utilizing or planning on utilizing spaces for this, and it makes sense because you can't really, the places that I know of, you can't utilize them any other way smartly. So those people would be put on hold. Okay.
Well-
And so what do you foresee legally that needs to be put in place? You know, Johnson's telling us that that there's already these laws in place, which I hear you and I agree with you. What else in addition can you think of that would need to be identified?
I am not tonight in a position to say anything. Do I see anything personally? No. But that's the purpose of the planning commission.
Right.
That's the purpose that council asked, to allow the planning commission time to decide, to review some other communities and decide whether or not they wanted regulation.
So are you aware of other communities doing this at this point?
Am I? No.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. I mean, I personally, I understand the concern. If they're next door to you, above you, you know, wherever you are, I get the concern. I felt the same way when the apartments went across the street from my business in the old Steens building. But I also know that when we're looking at Honda coming in, you're looking at executives coming in, we do not have enough housing. We are way behind on a 3-year growth. And so I feel like any type of hamper that we put on housing of any sort, whether it be temporary, new, is only gonna hurt us in the end. I have to agree with that. And I also have to agree that from a standpoint of income for folks who need it, possibly in this type of market that we have, it is a way of income and people are paying for that. I mean, I know I've never personally used this, but I have friends who have went to other areas, states and other areas in Ohio and have used it and not had any issue. So.
I guess what I don't understand is what's the difference between a bed and breakfast facility and
an
retail,
Airbnb.
and just a retail, or a rental. I could have a house and rent it out for a night to people, and no one would say a word. But if I call it a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb,
Airbnb.
I come under regulations. So that's kind of a soft spot right there. How do you get around that? Because if there's too much regulations and I have an Airbnb and you put a whole bunch of regulations on it, and I say, well, shoot, I'll just change the name to just, it's a rental. It's a rental. And so
Well,
now all of
right,
a
because
sudden.
you can go to a
I live in-
hotel and rent for a day
That's what
or
it
a
said.
week or
That's
a
what it
month.
said, yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right
Yep,
now,
yep,
a
yep,
lot
you
of
do.
places, it's just the rate difference.
Well, we got
is
one right there on
changing.
Washington Avenue, she rents out per night. So, it happens all the time. So, but if she changed her name to Airbnb, she would come under regulations. So it's kind of a difficult situation, how to approach that.
I think there's a couple of things, maybe. There are communities, many communities, that have ordinances and regulations regarding Airbnbs. I've got them on my phone, I don't have time to pull them up, but I've transferred them over, because there are restrictions out there.
Can you remember anything like specifically to help me kind of, because
Well,
I'm just not seeing it and I need to see an example.
Well, they would regulate the amount of days that you could actually rent it out,
Or,
like, I think like up to 6 months. I think one that I've talked to Mark about. Yeah, Cambridge, I think, has one that you can't rent it out for, less than 6 months. Which if it's a rental, you wouldn't wanna rent it for less than 6 months anyway.
People
you
do it all
can't
the
rent
time.
it for less than 6 months?
That's,
So that's gonna defeat
Well,
the Airbnb.
Yeah.
well, but that's the regulation. They must have had a lot of kickback, and so I don't know how they worked theirs out. But as far as Mr. Johnson, he wasn't having the full story, because the particular property that Mrs. White's referring to, the settlers are still living in there, so there was no Airbnb at this time until they move out sometime in February. So naturally, there wouldn't be any Woodstock or any kind of police calls, because they're very good people. So, that's kind of, you wasn't aware of that, I don't believe, when you asked, have been any calls for Chief Fineri to come out? Naturally, no, because it wasn't operating as an Airbnb yet. It's just they advertised it though, but that was coming.
So there will be problems?
Well, I don't know, depends on who gets in there again. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
You could have the same thing on a rental property.
Yeah.
Exactly the same problem.
Yeah, because I've known good families that rent and I'm shocked by how they take care of property and I'm
They
like,
trash it out. They
Yeah.
live there for 2 or 3 months and rent comes due and they move out.
Could I say something? Could I say something?
Just a minute, I wanna see if anybody else on council has any comments before I let anybody in public speak.
I think everything I would say has been said. I'll just leave it up to my vote.
Jim Chrisman?
No, I'm fine with it.
Kathy, if you keep it brief, I'll let you say something.
Okay. One of the things the thing that really hit us was that when you look at these things with Airbnbs, the only thing that they have to say is what kind of accommodation they have. They can have as many people as they want there, as long as they say, you can have 50 people there. Or they can say that you can have tents in the backyard, or you can park RVs there, or whatever, as long as they say that, what the accommodations are, that's what you can do there.
But-
And that's what some of our concern was.
so 2 of those things right there, tents, you can't live in the backyard in tents. We've had that
Yeah.
issue with people in RVs. We've had, Rod Bryant has went and taken care of that when it's happened, because it happens all the time, whether we know it or not.
Yeah.
So those are already in place to handle those
And-
2
And
things.
when you look at some of those things, so those are some of the things that we were kind of concerned about was, and when this advertisement came out about the one next door to us, it had RVs right on the top of that. And I think, Jim saw that advertisement too, that said, RVs, were, available as well, right on the top of the advertisement for this particular, Airbnb that was gonna be next door to us. And that would really plug up our neighborhood if that was going to be allowed. So that was a concern. So I think a lot of things that was said was kind of taken out of context, but we really are concerned about just being able to say what kind of accommodations they are having and being able to do what they please. So,
But
That
say,
was a
let me
real
be
concern.
devil's advocate for a minute. So you can rent a home, and I can tell you there's one on my street.
yeah.
And I don't know how in heaven's earth all those people and all those children live in that home.
That's a good
I
point,
understand
yes.
that.
But they do,
Mm-hmm.
and you know who I'm talking
I
about.
know exactly.
So, there's just certain things you're not gonna be able to control, and then there's other things that are already in place. I know that, cause Mark, didn't I? No, that wasn't.
But unless we come
Somebody
here,
pulled an RV
and
off of
unless
the
we come
property.
here and find out that there's going to be, those kinds of things ironed out, and these Airbnbs are going to be under the same regulations, or they know they're gonna be under the same regulations, or whatever, we're not gonna know. We gotta depend on you to make
Right.
sure that these things are in place.
Right.
Okay, does anybody else have any other
Thank you.
comments? Now that everybody's commented, I'll comment. First of all, I agree with Caleb. I think any issue that can come up with an Airbnb is probably taken care of. However, there could be things that I don't know about that are relating just to Airbnbs and really are separate from rentals. I see a very different from Airbnb and rental. Most rentals aren't for a day or 2 days. Most rentals have in them, it's gonna be for a certain length of time. But Caleb, I agree with you. This does nothing except keep people from starting them for at least 6 months. It might be nice if the amount of time was less, but I don't see anything wrong with having the commission look at it, check out other places, see if there's something we're missing. But I also don't think there's any major thing, but I don't know. So, and I think you agree that it's okay for them to look for it, right, Caleb?
So that the planning commission
Right,
look
right.
at it, absolutely, look at it.
I just don't wanna see someone hindered from, if they're already in process of doing it. Cause I know of one that is not, it's in downtown area, and it's a good idea for the property, and we're gonna hinder that from happening 6 months. I mean, is it fair to say, yes, we're gonna do this, and we ask the planning commission to do it within the next 6 months without this resolution? I mean, do we really need a resolution to ask the planning commission to do something for us, Joe?
No, you don't. In many ways, both sides of the debate are correct.
That's what I said.
If you pass the resolution, in practical terms, enforcement of it would be problematic. I mean, what we would look at that is, we'd look at it as direction that we need to go talk to the planning commission, and we're not going to interpret the zoning code in such a way as to specifically issue a zoning permit for an Airbnb, but you could make an argument that Airbnb doesn't appear anywhere in the zoning code. And, you know, if somebody, if they got worried about this resolution, and instead of Airbnb, if they called it, you know, Joe's Home Travel Lodge.
Right. Maybe
what I'm
they're
saying.
gonna get by with it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying, just change the name and you can
But
do what you want.
in Kathy White, what I found interesting, what I sat here and thought to myself about is, you know, I think that advertisement had like tents available or something like that. And when Mary was younger, she used to like to camp out in the tent in the backyard.
Mhm.
and Joe Denon out there with his daughter and tent in the backyard isn't violating any zoning ordinance, but if the house was an Airbnb and people did that all summer long, a different group of people every 2 or 3 days, that would be a little bit different.
But do you think it was really for that purpose, or see, when I see tents available, I'm thinking they're coming here and they're gonna go hiking or go, because the whole idea is people from the city would come here for the country.
Yeah, but we don't have that many hiking.
I don't know. That's what I would
mean,
look
you got
at it as
a
you're
hiking
gonna
trail.
go to, you're
You got
gonna go out to
trail.
Deer Creek
I might
or
disagree with you on that one.
Deer
But
Creek.
you,
or,
I don't know. I assume that you pitch your tent in the backyard.
Oh,
and
see, I would assume
roast
that you're gonna
your-
do something while
make
you're
your
here.
s'mores or something. I don't know.
So.
See, I picture it more as there's a tent in the backyard where you could have your group gather and have
Yeah,
a
I mean, that,
outdoor
I'm telling you,
party
it gets
type
very
thing.
sticky when you get into these things.
That's what I would picture, not
You know,
sleeping
you
out
need to
there.
have planning commission look at it, and there might be things because that are reasonable to do. Like if you're going to have the traveling public, maybe you want these things to. The fire department needs to make a fire inspection once a year.
Mhm. There you go. There you go.
You know, you can do reasonable things like that. It's not the easiest issue in the world.
No. There's no good answers to it is the problem.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're hoping we come up with
But
some
even
good
those answers may need to be
But you might
manipulated
there might
after a
be
while.
some reasonable things if you look at the issue that makes sense to do. You know, when I thought about what Kathy had to say, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, she didn't come here the other day and say, Kathy White, absolutely object to Airbnbs, and I don't want to see these anywhere in the universe. It's, I want some reasonable regulation of the thing, and for you folks to sit down and look at it so that I don't end up with great big huge problem in my neighborhood and I don't have to worry about what's going to happen to this property. That's what I got.
Okay.
And one
Kathy,
thing
is
to
that a fair-
clarify.
I think you've got it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Caleb.
To clarify, I know that this piece of paper says all bread and breakfast facilities currently operating should be grandfathered in, so it's only supposedly a moratorium for 6 months. But this piece of paper, once again, it's not enforceable. It is barely worth the ink printed upon it. And Mrs. White, it was my understanding when you came in, you wanted something done. You didn't want us to just smile at you and pretend like we were going to do something.
I didn't ask for a moratorium. I just want something
Yeah.
done that they regulated, so I don't have, like he said, that, you know,
Yeah.
when they say tents are available, what somebody takes the liberty and starts camping out in that yard all the time, you know?
And,
That's,
yeah,
we want reasonable. I'm not
Yes.
saying they can't have it.
but you want something that can be enforced. Is that what you want?
Sure.
Yeah, and we don't,
And everything
Yeah.
that hotels, whatever, all of those things are regulated.
and so Mrs. White, I just wanna say, I know we don't agree on the issue of Airbnbs, but I never want to have someone come in and think that something's gonna be done, that whenever there is no way we can enforce this. Unless it says ordinance up here and it goes into the code, we can't enforce a resolution. And so I just don't want anyone to leave here with that impression like this is actually binding.
And I wanna tell you something too, Caleb, when I came in here, I didn't even know there was a resolution.
Oh, of course, okay. Well,
It's a beginning. It's a
So-
beginning.
I mean, I would like to propose that we ditch the resolution but still go forward with the planning commission and asking them to do this and to report to us no later than 6 months and let them do their research. And, I mean, that's what we normally do.
yes.
I don't know why we did the
So-
resolution unless somebody just really wanted to see a resolution, which Kathy's saying she didn't even know about it, so.
So these last
Didn't
two,
see it till tonight.
Ted?
So these last two resolutions that we just passed, they're not worth the paper they're on?
No, those authorize him to do something. They are not decisions that we make. They are in fact punting it to him. That's why it says a resolution authorizing, or it's an honorary form of saying we are not taking action on it.
He is.
Someone else is.
I mean, in practice, what we would do with R3 is interpret that for 6 months. We're not going to issue a zoning permit for an Airbnb. Now, with that said, all the Airbnbs you already have
Don't have
never don't
permits.
have a zoning permit.
Because they don't think they have to.
I think her issue is that they advertised that they could do these things, but I don't think anybody can legally advertise something that's against the rules
Right,
that we already have set in place in town. I
right.
mean, and they wouldn't have a right just because they advertised it.
It would be shut down because they're already, whether it's the owner doing it or it's an Airbnb renter doing it, it's against the law.
But I think that's her point. I mean,
No.
the fact that they advertise and
If
makes
they're
it look like they.
advertising and they're in the county, they can do it.
They're in the city though.
Yeah, but this is the city, so that's what I'm saying, but if they're in the county, they advertise blanket over the, whether city or county. They advertise one advertisement for both. Now, they could say, in the city, you can't do this, but in the county, you can.
Yeah, now there's another argument that I find to be extreme, is that Airbnbs aren't mentioned anywhere in the zoning code. So therefore, any ones that are operating now aren't legally operating. If I was the owner of that Airbnb and the city manager trolleyed down and said, hey, you never got a zoning permit for an Airbnb, I'd probably look at the city manager and say, I own the property and I'm renting it and you need to go find something else to do.
Yeah.
That would be, if I was on the other side of the equation, that would be my basic response to that.
Right.
This, you've done sort of the placeholder before. Years ago when the miniature casinos came up, and I can't remember if that was an ordinance or how you did it. Different, but the same solution. There we couldn't initially figure out if the things were legal or not, because the state of Ohio had made that incredibly unclear. So you did the timeout while we figured out if you could do that or not. And hopefully you got some sort of clarification from the state of Ohio, which they sort of did, and then they mucked around with it a few times since then to make it more confusing. Regardless if you vote this up or down, or if you table it or you table it indefinitely, the course of action we're going to take with the planning commission is going to be the same.
Same, right. I'm kind of with Caleb, why pass something if you can't enforce it? But, I mean, it makes us look silly, in my opinion. I would rather just work with the planning commission and have something to the public in 6 months or less. That actually makes sense. They've researched it, and you're not hindering anybody at this point.
In defense, I would say, and Caleb, I don't remember the exact wording, I don't, but I think the committee more or less indicated to Mr. Denon to do something like this in terms of.
We interpreted that we were supposed to bring some piece of legislation.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but
I wasn't there.
I know you weren't there, but I'm just
I mean,
saying,
if you want to.
I think that's why you have it, but
Okay.
Mark, the point of order, if they want to amend this resolution, I mean, normally you'd have specific language, but if they made a motion and second and voted, that motion being, we want to amend this resolution to direct that within 6 months, we talk with the planning commission and come back with some sort of recommendation, they can do that.
They can do that if they want, sure.
But how does that affect people who wanna establish new ones
It
from here until
doesn't,
then?
because there's not a whole lot we can,
You're taking away that language, basically.
yeah, instead of prohibiting Airbnbs, you're just telling us to go work with planning commission and come up with an answer
Within 6 months.
within
Which
6
gives,
months.
is exactly what Caleb's talking about.
Now, this would probably oversimplify it and wouldn't work. We got two lawyers here to tell me that. So. What if we just move to change it from resolution to an ordinance?
It doesn't make any difference. It won't, it still have the same effect.
Okay. I didn't figure it'd work, but I thought, well,
Same effect.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
So, we gotta come up with how we're amending it to what Joe just said.
If
And
you,
then
we don't
somebody-
have to do that.
I know that,
Mhm.
but if
We
somebody
can
wants to
table it,
make that
or we
motion.
can table it, or what was the other option?
Vote it down.
Yeah,
Vote it down,
Vote it down.
or amend
You
it.
got three things. You can vote it down, you can pass it, you can vote it down, you can amend it, or you can table it. Four
Well,
things.
let's vote on those options.
Well, if somebody wants to make a motion to table it, you gotta make the motion. If somebody makes a motion to amend it, you gotta make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we amend it according to the city manager's wording.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Can't do that.
Why not?
It's when you do it. They gotta have the motion and second to read it.
Right.
And then when Dale calls
We
for
did.
discussion, Jim, you'd make a motion to amend it.
We're in discussion
We did,
phase
Yeah,
right
we're in
now.
discussion.
Well, we
phase
are,
right now.
okay.
Yeah.
We're in discussion
Jim,
right
Blair, and Ted made a motion and second to pass it. Then we were in discussion.
now. Discussion is right now.
All right,
so if you
okay,
wanna amend
okay.
it,
So
you
Blair
can
can,
amend it.
okay.
Jim Blair is making a motion to amend.
Amend it.
To instruct the city manager,
Please, Mark, tell us.
to instruct the city manager to present to the planning commission the question of bed and breakfast within the city of Washington Courthouse for regulation purposes.
Wow. Okay,
Do you think you can come up with something sensible?
I think they can.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, depending upon what it is they wanna do. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. For instance, Mr. Blair's right. There are some communities, and I don't know about Cambridge, but a big deal was in the legal journals with reference to San Francisco. San Francisco wanted to limit the ability of homeowners to rent out their rental or their personal property by the week for the same concept as a bed and breakfast. They passed that ordinance that did that. However, it went to the California Supreme Court. The California Supreme Court had another view of that you were infringing upon the right of a private homeowner to do with whatever they want with their personal property. It's a very slippery slope. Cambridge, he says, limited to 6 months. I don't think that from a constitutional perspective,
Hold on.
that's gonna work, because, again, are you able now to have a 30-day periodic tenancy in a rental? Sure. Can you have a week? Yes. We have places in town that rent to people on a day-to-day basis,
Yep.
which is basically the same concept. I don't know. I mean, that's something that the planning commission, that's the reason you have them. They sit down, they look at all the details. What do we want in the community? And I think all of us can be part of that discussion when it comes to the planning commission. That's
Like I said earlier, it's a very fine line between
very fine line.
rental and Airbnb or whatever you wanna call it. If I'm running a bed and breakfast and you say I can't, I'll just change the name to a rental and I'll do what I want.
Well, if you go through the process of the planning commission and they recommend no, they've done their part.
They've researched it.
Correct. And they'll have the reason why, and then the citizen, it may not be the answer that any of the citizens
Right.
would want,
Right.
but at least the process has been filled, and we've done all of our due diligence as a council to see that our citizens.
But when the planning commission comes up with recommendations, we're the ones that have to approve it.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
All they do is send it to us. You're
It's gonna
still
come
gonna
back to
have to
us.
vote on it.
It's gonna come back to us eventually.
So I'm under the understanding with the amendment that we are not restricting new
Right.
Airbnbs from starting. We're just putting that 6-month restriction on the planning commission that we want results back by then, correct? Am I understanding that?
What you're doing is instructing the administration to present this question to the planning commission and to come back to council with what the recommendation of the planning commission would be within 6 months.
Yep.
Okay.
We don't want this thing to languish.
No.
You're kind of putting us on a hot seat here to get something done within 6 months.
Do we have a second?
You don't
For
hesitate
the
telling me to do
amendment,
it.
yes.
Yes, for the amendment.
For that
Jim Blair
amendment.
made a motion.
For that amendment, yes.
And Caleb's gonna second it.
Caleb seconds. Okay. Do we have a vote, please, Miss? This is on the amendment now.
Amended resolution.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. So, Mark, that's the first reading of that amended
Yes.
resolution,
Yes,
so we
that's
still
correct.
have to have another
Yeah, it'd
reading.
come up again.
We'll make amended, we'll have the amended.
So technically, I think we only voted just now to amend it. We didn't vote yet. Now we have to put the amended one on first reading.
We just voted to amend it.
To amend it.
Yeah, so now
we're
we,
gonna, I'm
You
gonna
gotta
provide
do
a.
first reading, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be on
Yeah.
first reading the next time we have a meeting, yes.
Yeah, but
oh, the next time. we
no.
have it.
I'll need some help about what.
Wait.
We're not gonna read anything.
Well, they
So
have
we
some-
can't have the first reading tonight.
We don't have, what,
We don't have an
We don't
amendment.
have it done.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
There's no amendment.
thank you. Kathy, thank you. We obviously need discussion about B&Bs, that we haven't. Caleb, thank you for your input. That was valuable. I appreciate it. Joe, Mark, everybody, thank you. That's what we should do as a city council, I should tell you. Resolution number 4, 2023, first reading.
I'll move that we place resolution number R4 2023 on first reading.
And I will second that.
Discussion. Roll call, Mr. Denon.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Resolution number R5, 2023,
I
first.
gotta read it.
Oh,
Sorry.
nope. I'm sorry.
A resolution accepting the body worn camera grant for the Washington Courthouse Police Department.
Sorry.
You never would have done it with Kelly been sitting over there, would you?
No, I would have. Resolution number R5, 2023, first reading.
I'll move we put resolution R5 2023 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
A resolution accepting the American Rescue Plan grant for the purpose of hiring and retention of personnel for the Washington Courthouse Police Department.
And we need about 3 right now, so that's
Yeah, you
good.
do.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, resolution number R6, 2023, first reading.
I'll move that we place resolution number R6 2023 on a first reading.
Second.
Thank you. And roll call.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing Judge J. Denon or his designee to enter into agreement with Grossman Group Design and Planning for the purpose of market research design master planning services.
Okay. Miscellaneous. Caleb, what have you got this evening, sir?
I will just refer back to my previous one and save everyone's time.
Kendra, I'm glad you got well enough to come. You've been having some health issues.
Yeah.
So what do you got?
Getting old stinks. I was just gonna say, you know, there are so many times that you take things for granted, and in my community, I can get teary-eyed about this. You realize how good it is to live in a small community, and how many times people reach out. And for the past 4 weeks, people have been taking care of my business and my kid to practices and to school, and I have really good friends, and I don't think I would have had that. I mean, I had friends in the city when I lived there, but it's not the same. So, look around and appreciate what you got. Because it's different living here than it is in a big city.
You're allowed to get teary-eyed, Ken.
And
Miss-
I'm gonna get better, because I went to a different doctor today, so.
Mr. Schultz.
Well, I'll tell you, we've had a lot of discussion tonight, and I'm confused whether we're gonna allow chickens at the Airbnb or the ducks. I don't know what we're doing. So, but I look forward to the future discussions, and I hope they're not as quacky as this, so. That's all I got, I'm just crazy.
Mr. Blair.
I cannot beat the last comments, I'm not even gonna try. Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hogg.
Well, we've talked about comparison to rentals and yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, just so we don't get down to the hourly.
Hourly.
I could vote
Oh,
for no
I
daily too.
think there is one
okay?
of them going on here in town, so.
That's all I got.
Mr. Chrisman.
I'm just gonna briefly kind of repeat part of Joe's report, because he's more eloquent than I am. Anyway, we'd like, along with Joe, I'd like to thank the street for their work with the snow. It was great. I hope Martin Renison enjoyed that time. He's been a welcome addition to the city. And does good painting, I hear. Last one is, looks like whoever picked him, picked Mr. Everhart for the schoolwork and did a good job.
Yeah.
A good choice. Heck, that's about all I got.
Okay, I spoke a lot last time, so I'll make this short. First of all, remember, we have a 10:30 meeting. Joe, I want to make something clear. We're just voting on one ordinance,
One piece of legislation.
not all these other things.
No.
So if people have discussion about other things,
Tomorrow?
tomorrow at 10:30, we're just voting on the JED, Joint Economic Development District.
And
I'm correct, right?
yeah, right now it's set up, that would be the same way on Friday. I wanted to ask you folks tonight, the market research and design resolution, could we finish that one on Friday? We'd have to do a little bit more advertisement for it. I'd really like to march along. I got things to get done.
Yes.
Is that fine
Two
with
things
everybody?
on Friday.
And
Yeah,
so
that's-
how long are we talking, like 10 minutes? Cause
Oh,
I
if
have
that. I
okay,
mean, that,
okay.
you know, it'll be walk in, vote, walk out.
Okay,
I know Jim Blair can't be there tomorrow.
Correct, Thursday I cannot.
He already had another commitment.
okay,
Everybody else, okay?
yeah.
Yes.
The only other thing I want to say is, if anybody has any classified documents at home, turn them in, please.
Darn, I have stashed in my Airbnb.
No, the duck ate.
I did the
All right?
chicken cake.
Thank you.
Okay, I had to leave with a little humor here. Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and roll call.
Hawk.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman
Yes.
and Lynch.
Yes, and we're adjourned. Thank everybody for
Turn
coming.
us off.
Coming.
Joe,
What?
we're turning us off.
Oh, yeah.
Before anybody says anything. Do not talk to
Caleb? Thank you. For your comment. I think we got it right now.